What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Battle in the Trenches presented by Climb the Pocket. It is NFL Week 10 edition, and we got your stardom, we got your sit-ems for the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end position. I'm with, as always, Ryan McGinley. Find him on Twitter at Bootleg Fantasy, the one and only, and myself at Steve_CTP. Go ahead and check out the Climb the Pocket website at Climb the Pocket on Twitter for a bunch of good articles. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Like the video. We really appreciate it. We just got over 1,000 subscribers. If you're here and you're a sub, we really appreciate it. And if you're new, sub to the channel. You're not going to want to miss it. We had a killer week last week. I know we helped some people win their fantasy football matchups. And that's our goal this week, as it is every week, to get some W's in that playoff push, getting those dubs. Make it to the playoffs, win a fantasy football championship. Drop a comment below. Any questions you got, we are here to help you. We will answer all of them. All of them. All right, let's get into the video of the starts and sits. And we'll start them with the stardom quarterbacks. And I'm starting none other than Jared Goff versus Seattle. Seattle is a historically awful defense against wide receivers. For the quarterback, it's all there. They're on record pace to give up the most passing yards ever. I think the 2011 Packers set the record. They're going to blow them out the water by 1,000 yards. So start Jared Goff. I love Robert Woods this week. I love Cooper Kupp. Maybe some of the tight ends, but I definitely like those wide receivers. I think Jared Goff is going to have a fantastic day versus Seattle. And I'm also starting Drew Brees versus San Francisco. What did Drew Brees just do to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? He embarrassed them. Embarrassed him on Sunday Night Football. 4 passing touchdowns. Nothing crazy, just a bunch of touchdowns. And he played good. He had Michael Thomas back. Didn't have the best day, but he got a bunch of people involved. Adam Troutman was involved. All right, Drew Brees is spreading the ball. He's playing great. You know, we've had him as a sit, and now he's a start. He's a start now. He's going against San Francisco. Their defense is nothing to be too afraid of. So I like Drew Brees this week against San Francisco. Ryan, who you starting at quarterback, man?
So, Steve, these two guys are both near to my heart, at least a little bit. Big Ben. I'm starting Big Ben this week. He's in COVID precautionary reserve lists currently. It's not because he tested positive. I similarly had the same situation last week. That's why I looked terrible, because mentally I was not all there. I thought I had corona. It was a terrible situation. But Big Ben does not have corona. I didn't have corona. So fire up, Big Ben, against the Bengals. Diontae Johnson's back involved. He looked healthy. He looked explosive. And Big Ben's got, a little bit to prove. You're starting to hear some possible MVP clamors for Big Ben. I think he can work his way. I don't know why we don't talk about Big Ben as a possible comeback player of the year candidate. He's just not listed at all. And I feel like he's kind of the slam dunk guy. I always hear Alex Smith. It was previously Cam Newton. But I feel like that's Big Ben's trophy to walk away with.
They're undefeated.
The other guy. Yeah, if they go undefeated, realistically, I mean, he should get more MVP talks. He's not going to. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson and Josh Allen are all deserving candidates. But Big Ben should at least be like the fifth guy talked about. There's been no clamors for Big Ben. So a little chip on the shoulder for the big guy. And the redhead that plays similarly to Big Ben on the other side of Pennsylvania, Carson Wentz. He's 7-1 against the Giants all time. He played really well against them last time they matched up 3 weeks ago at this point. And the Giants let Carson Wentz run. He's got the most rushing attempts amongst any team he's played against the Giants. So he could be a possible dual threat. He may run one in. They really need to get going in Philadelphia. And I think this is the perfect game for Wentz to get it right. He's a star for me, especially it's a weird landscape of quarterbacks this week. So Carson Wentz is in my lineup.
Couple of PA boys. We love to see it. Stardom quarterbacks right there for you. Let's go ahead and move on to the sit quarterbacks. And I'm sitting Cam Newton versus Baltimore. Cam Newton coming off a decent game against the Jets on Monday night. A couple of rushing touchdowns. Actually threw for more passing yards than I think most people expected. I think the line was like 210. I think he shattered that by like 60 yards. Jacoby Myers getting involved. There's certainly some upside to think about with Cam Newton as far as his receivers getting involved. But he's going against Baltimore. He just played the Jets. He just had a really good game against the Jets out of nowhere in comeback fashion. They were losing most of the game, and they won that game. But Cam Newton's going against Baltimore now. I think Baltimore's going to be ruthless towards them. I think New England's going to lose this game by a considerable margin. I think Cam Newton's going to have a rough day trying to run the ball on the ground, especially when most teams are probably planning for that. The Jets did a good job most of the game planning for Cam Newton's rushing attack, and he was able to get it done on the goal line, but not a lot otherwhere or in other spots throughout the field. And I think Baltimore's going to put him in check. I don't think he's going to have a lot of passing yards. They have a really good pass defense. So I'm sitting Cam Newton this week, and I'm also sitting Ryan Tannehill again for the second straight week. At Chicago last week, I told you to sit him. Had a bad game. He's going against Indianapolis. Might be the best defense in the NFL. I don't like this matchup. A.J. Brown might find a way to still get it done. Jonnu Smith hasn't been the same guy. And a couple of tough matchups in a row for the Titans, and especially for Ryan Tannehill. And I'm going to keep him on my bench and really not think twice about it. He is not a top 12 quarterback this week. So I'm sitting Ryan Tannehill. Who are you sitting?
Unfortunately, I'm sitting the other guy in the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cincinnati Bengals game, Joe Burrow. And I've loved what Burrow's done his early first half of his career, first season in his first year, And I think Burrow is going to have the toughest matchup of his short career so far against Pittsburgh. There's no denying that Pittsburgh gets after the quarterback. They lead the NFL in sacks. So it's gonna be tough for Burrow with that dilapidated offensive line. Joe Mixon, don't know if he's going to be back this week. Gio Bernard, I guess, has been fine. Samaje Perine showed up for them. Didn't realize he was still in the NFL. So it's going to be a rough one for Burrow. It's going to be one of those games where you just have to take your lumps and just deal with it. I think Burrow is definitely on the bench this week. I'm also sitting Tua against the Chargers. Joe Burrow's 1-6, I think, and he needs a get-it-right-win game. And the Chargers themselves really need a win. And this is going to be one of my favorite games to watch this week, the Dolphins and the Chargers. But I think the Chargers' defense is better than advertised. I think that they'll get after Tua. I need to see Tua do more than just throw to the left. So hopefully Tua doesn't get rocked in this game, but I really think this is going to be a defensive battle.
All right, as we lead into the running back conversation, I just want to mention, you mentioned Samaje Perine, a running back we didn't know was still in the NFL. Another one that got to play, Alex Collins. Alfred Morris is getting a lot of work. Where are we? What year are we in?
It was an unbelievable just turn of events, and Frank Gore's is still doing his thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand why these running backs are still just getting jobs, but hey, love to see the old names out there. I mean, Kalen Ballage looks good this week too. So.
Wow! I did not even know he was on a team until he scored a touchdown. I was watching Red Zone, so that's fun. Let's go ahead and move into the start running backs. I'm starting Kareem Hunt, coming off the bye week. Kind of a layup, but Kareem Hunt, people might have forgot about him. Nick Chubb's coming back.
Sure.
What happens if Chubb's back? You're starting Hunt. You're starting Hunt most weeks. He's actually seemed to be almost more efficient when Chubb's on the field. He's able to play his game. Teams aren't planning necessarily just for Hunt as the workhorse back. He's going against Houston. Houston's not that great of a defense. I suspect the Cleveland offense to run the ball a lot, as always. Baker Mayfield, I believe he's on the COVID IR kind of watch list right now, so maybe he's going to have a little less time to prep, lean on that run game a little more. Even if Chubb's back, I think Kareem Hunt is going to be very involved, so I like him as a slam dunk start this week. And I'm also starting DeAndre Swift, who has been getting just a lot of work. He's not coming off a huge game. He's coming off a decent game. I think he had 12 carries for like 60-something yards and another 5 targets. I think on the year he's averaging 4.5 targets per game. That's really good for a good, that's running back. That's a really good potential. That's good, consistency and whatnot that he's going to catch possibly 4 balls a game. That's great PPR value. And I think it's still leaning towards DeAndre Swift becoming the starting running back, the full-timer. We're still seeing Kerryon Johnson come on the field in the red zone, which we all don't like. We want DeAndre Swift to get the most work. I think they will get to that point, and it's coming soon. But for right now, he's doing enough for you to keep him in your lineup. And he's going against Washington, who has a decent run defense. But like I said, I think Swift is going to be a pretty big part of the game plan every single week to get at least 13, 14 touches, so that's good enough for me to make him a starting running back. Who are you starting at running back?
I got to start the Gus bus. I really do think Gus Edwards gets it done on the ground. He scored the last 3 weeks. The Ravens' passing offense is seemingly a joke. I don't know what happened. Hollywood Brown's not involved. Willie Snead's their best pass catcher. So they need to rely on running the ball, and I think that's the only way that they're winning games right now. Gus Edwards has been their most effective running back. He had a tough go of it last week and kind of saved it with the touchdown, but they really do trust him around the goal line, and they're down at the goal line a lot. So I really do like Gus. I'm also starting Jonathan Taylor in the short week. I think short weeks kind of lend themselves to having more of a bland game where they're going to run the ball a lot. Both teams are going to run the ball a ton. It's going to be like the quickest Thursday night game of the year with Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor. So I do think Taylor looks pretty solid this week. I think he's a solid flex play. I know that's not what you drafted him as, but you've had to kind of adapt that way. I think he's perfectly fine in your lineup. Hopefully he finds the end zone because that'll really make his numbers look better. I think he's shooting for around 12 to 14 points without scoring a touchdown. So hopefully he does find the end zone.
All right, let's move on to the sit-em running backs, and I'm going to sit the Broncos running backs against Las Vegas. That game in Atlanta was ugly for the running backs for Denver. Drew Lock had a good game. Jeudy had a good game. Tim Patrick had a good game, but none of those guys are running backs. They think I combined for like 10 rushing attempts and weren't able to rack up nearly any yards. I have no idea what's going on in this running back situation. It seems like the Denver Broncos love Philip Lindsay, but he's honestly just not playing that well, and Melvin Gordon is just, I guess, either not playing well or just being underutilized. Who knows? Going against Vegas, they're pretty decent. They're probably going to game plan to stop the run. I just don't know what to do with these Broncos running backs. I can't feel confident. I don't own a lot of Lindsay or a lot of Gordon, so I can't really speak like from the heart about this one. But if I did own them, I'd be looking to probably find a way to get them out of my bench and get someone with a little more potential to, have a boom game into my lineup. So I'm sitting those guys. I'm also sitting Darrell Henderson versus Seattle. I think this is going to be a huge passing game. Like I said, I think Jared Goff is going to get it done, and Darrell Henderson might be able to get some yards out of the backfield and whatnot, but they're going to be looking downfield. Malcolm Brown still involved. Maybe we see some Cam Akers, probably not. But I just don't really see this as much of a rushing game. We saw what the Bills did against Seattle. They threw because that's what you should do against this defense, and I think that's all you really need to see to game plan for this week in Sean McVay is we need to pass the ball a lot. We don't need to run the ball a lot to win this game. We need to pass the ball a lot. We have really good receivers in Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. So I think that's what they're going to do. I think Darrell Henderson will have a decent day, but I don't think it's going to be a huge day. I think you might find yourself getting under 9 PPR points, and that's not really that great in PPR. So I'm sitting Darrell Henderson. Who are you sitting?
Got us to the Bucs running backs. I mean, they set a record for least rushing attempts in a game in NFL history last week. We don't know who their running back is. It seemed like it was Fournette, and then all of a sudden it was just Ron Jones, seemingly, all this past week. So I can't trust either of them in my lineup because neither of them are doing anything, and I don't see a switch coming anytime soon with the offense that they've created with the pass-catching options. So it's going to be tough for me to play them going forward, especially this week. I'm also sitting Zack Moss. He seemingly had a game where he should have been pretty solid last week. 9 carries for 18 yards. He salvaged it with a touchdown. That's not going to get it done for me. It's not going to get it done for the Bills, who are going to need to be in a high-flying game this week in Arizona. So I'm definitely not playing Zack Moss. He may score a 1-yard touchdown to the chagrin of my Josh Allen ownership, but he's not somebody that I feel comfortable playing week in and week out.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the wide receivers. Starting wide receivers, I'm starting Brandin Cooks at Cleveland. Brandin Cooks has slowly become a must-start wide receiver for your team, whether it's your wide receiver 2 or your flex. I think you can feel comfortable. He's receiving a lot of targets there in Houston. This past week, he had 26% of the target share compared to Will Fuller 16. Will Fuller had a slightly better game. It was kind of Maybe Brandin Cooks' final stat line looked kind of weird. It should have been a lot better because he started the game off with a 54-yard touchdown, only ended with 3 receptions for, I think, 80-something yards and a touchdown. But he had 9 targets. They just didn't connect him and Deshaun Watson. There were some penalties. Wasn't able to connect on those, but the target share is really, really encouraging that Brandin Cooks in this Bill O'Brien-less offense is just, flourishing. He's becoming that wide receiver that he has been in the past, and a guy that is probably the top target on the team. Will Fuller's still there, but Brandin Cooks a little more of a possession receiver, something who can get it done, stretch the field, who can get it done like on short passes and create and make moves in open space. So Brandin Cooks just getting a lot of targets, looking really good. And at Cleveland, I really like this matchup. So and I'm also starting Robert Woods versus Seattle. I've mentioned him, Jared Goff. Robert Woods, they're going to have a great game. There's no way they aren't. Lock it. It's going to be 15-plus PPR points, no doubt. Like, if they don't score those points, DM me on Twitter, and I will send you $5. I will do that. If he does not score 15 PPR points, all right? I might even put a timestamp in the description that says free $5. JK,
Free $5.
He's scoring 15. Like, that's what's happening. So start Robert Woods, get him in your lineup. Cooper Kupp, bonus. Get him in your lineup. You're gonna want these guys in your lineup. All right, let's move on to your starting wide receivers.
I'm also doing the stack play where I'm starting Diontae Johnson against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been pretty susceptible to the pass this year. If Cincinnati somehow goes up with a passing attack, the Steelers are going to need to stay in it. And I really do think that Big Ben's got a chip on his shoulder. Diontae Johnson really started to figure it out. I mean, that 40-yard ball where it was a 15-yard pass that he turned into 40 yards, where he made a couple guys miss and ran down the sideline. That's what we were expecting out of him all year. I know he's had injuries, and Chase Claypool's emergence has kind of taken away from the spotlight for Diontae Johnson, but I really think that down the stretch he's going to be one of the better wide receivers in the league. And same goes for the next guy I'm starting, and I'm starting him again this week like I started him last week. Jerry Jeudy. I think that he's going to have a similar final stretch that A.J. Brown had last year. And you say, Ryan, how can you say that? I say that because A.J. Brown got stuck with Marcus Mariota for however many games last year. Jerry Jeudy got stuck with me throwing him the football. I think Drew Lock's not a great quarterback, but he's more than average, I would say. And their connection is growing stronger each week. He found the end zone on that beautiful play where he acted like he just wanted a deep ball thrown to him and stopped on a dime.
That was sick.
And then pretty much walked into the end zone. That was sick. And I really do think he's starting to kind of gain confidence in the NFL. And if he sees 10 targets a game, he's going to catch 5 or 6 of them. And he's going to turn that into at least 50 yards, 60 yards, 100 yards because he has getaway speed. So I really do think Judy's a great play.
All right, on to the wide receivers you should keep on your bench. I'll start them off with Justin Jefferson at Chicago. This is probably the first week in a while that I don't want to play Justin Jefferson, and he didn't have a great week last week against Detroit. Kind of underwhelming, but what's happening is the Vikings are doing what they need to do to win games, and they're running the ball with Dalvin Cook. He's unstoppable right now. I think Kirk Cousins had 20 pass attempts this past game. That's not going to get it done for your wide receivers. Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson had a bad game. Going against Chicago into this game, the Vikings need to run the ball to win this game, and that's what's going to happen. And I see Justin Jefferson probably facing some Jalen Johnson, and he's got a really considerably high amount of pass breakups for a rookie. It's like kind of all pro numbers he's putting up as far as the PBU. So I don't like this matchup for Justin Jefferson. I don't like the passing attack for Kirk Cousins. I would never start Kirk Cousins this week against Chicago. I'm giving Chicago a lot of respect this year for the defense, and they're just living up to it, especially in the passing game. So I don't like Justin Jefferson. And I'm also sitting Marquise Brown at New England. New England's, they definitely were susceptible to the pass against the Jets on Monday night. I think a lot of people were very surprised. Joe Flacco looked decent. Denzel Mims looked good. Crowder had a decent game. These wide receivers had a good game, but I think New England kind of gets a little more on track as far as the defense is concerned, and Lamar Jackson just isn't playing that great. He's finding ways to get it done on the ground, but how can you ever feel confident putting Marquise Brown in your lineup without a little more consistency? I can't. He's a flex starter at best. And even then, I don't feel comfortable because there's a lot of good waiver wire options that have found the way onto your bench that you're trying to get into your lineup. So Marquise Brown, no longer a must start in this game against New England. I certainly don't think it's a great matchup. So I would be hesitant to put him in my starting lineup this week. Who are you sitting?
I got to sit Mikey Dubs, Mike Williams against Miami. I think he's a similar prototype wide receiver to DeAndre Hopkins, where they're bigger guys that can high point a ball. They make plays across the middle, kind of 20, 25 yards down the field. And Miami was all over that last week against Hopkins. So I really don't like the optics for Williams. I think they're going to kind of just let Keenan Allen do whatever he does in the middle. But I don't think Mike Williams is going to beat them. I don't feel comfortable with him in the lineup at all. And I'm also sitting DJ Moore against Tampa Bay. And it's not because of a matchup. It's not because there's a lockdown corner for Tampa Bay. It's not because they've got a hurt quarterback in Carolina. It's because for some odd reason, Teddy Bridgewater wants no parts of DJ Moore after DJ put up like 90-plus yards in 3 straight games. I don't understand what's going on with that offense. As somebody who loves DJ Moore as a player, it hurts to watch Curtis Samuel do everything that you wanted DJ Moore to do in the last couple weeks. It seems like DJ Moore runs right across Teddy Bridgewater's face on every second down and third down play, and he somehow avoids him. I don't know if he looks directly over him, he looks to the side of him, but it's extremely frustrating when you watch the Panthers and DJ Moore essentially has 2 hands waving in the air saying, "Hey, I'm wide open, give me the ball, I can run in traffic, it's going to be great, it's worth it." And Teddy Bridgewater throws a 45-yard pass that may or may not get completed to Robbie Anderson on the sideline. It happens like 4 or 5 times a game, and as somebody who's heavily invested in DJ Moore, it hurts. But for some reason, they just don't like DJ Moore. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a game plan thing, but DJ Moore's not in my lineup this week.
Yeah, I mean, they have a great group of skill players, and he's just getting the short end of the stick. I'm not saying anything bad about Curtis Samuel, about Robbie Anderson. Christian McCaffrey was back. It's hard to find the targets, and after having multiple great games in a row, they've definitely gone away from him. It's kind of weird. I'm sure he'll have some good games here in the future, but it's going to be hard to predict, and like you said, not confident, so you're sitting him. So move on to the start and sit tight ends. I'm starting Rob Gronkowski against Carolina, coming off a pretty bad game with only 1 catch for a couple yards. But the targets are there. He's going to be consistently targeted by Tom Brady for the rest of the year. He has been for the past 4 or 5 games. So I think you got to keep throwing out the targets, especially where tight end's a wasteland. And, you're pretty much chasing targets and touchdowns, and he's getting the red zone targets. So you got to continue to chug him out there. I'm also starting Eric Ebron versus Cincinnati. Past 3 games, Eric Ebron's either had a touchdown or 50 yards, seeing the targets. Like I said, tight end's not that great, so the consistency has been there as far as the targets go. He's getting the production, whether it's a touchdown or some yards, so throw him in your lineup. I'm also sitting Jonnu Smith, and it's like I mentioned earlier, Ryan Tannehill, a couple bad matchups in a row. Jonnu Smith is seeing the top end of that. He's not getting it done. He had a touchdown, but that's not just going to do it. I mean, it will in the tight end landscape, but you're looking for that production that he had towards the earlier end of the year. It's going to be a tough day for him against Indianapolis. That linebacking crew is great. Eric, I don't know. I just really can't trust Jonnu Smith and Ryan Tannehill this week. I'm also sitting the Rams tight ends because Seattle's actually decent at covering the not tight ends, just tight ends in general. The wide receivers are the ones that are eating. Like I said, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods all day, but I think these tight ends are going to have a tough one. So, all right, let's move on to your tight ends.
Dude, I hate that I was so high on Tyler Higbee and he's just slapped me in the face.
I was too.
It's disgusting.
And I own like none of them.
I just wish he was. I wish he was exactly at least 80% of what I thought he was. He's like 15% of what I thought he was going to be. It's disgusting. But I'm starting Hunter Henry against Miami. Max Williams scored a touchdown against Miami. So, ipso facto, a decent tight end should be finding the end zone. So Hunter Henry's definitely a play. Austin Hooper, they're going to get their run game reestablished. So I expect some play action with some easy passes to Austin Hooper, get him back into the flow of things. I think he'll see enough volume to where you're starting him over guys like these two that I'm sitting in, Jared Cook and Logan Thomas, because Jared Cook's going against San Francisco. And Logan Thomas is going against Denver in Denver. And Logan Thomas is like the weird tight end where he's pretty much always the number one tight end available on your waiver wire, and you expect him to kind of find the end zone, and he just doesn't seem to get targeted down in the red zone. I don't understand what's going on. I understand Alex Smith is now the quarterback, and he may look for easy passes, but I just don't trust Logan Thomas as a pass catcher because it doesn't seem like they trust him in all aspects of the game. He had a couple of weird false starts, and he didn't line up correctly, so they can't have him in at all times. So, Logan Thomas, you are also on the bench.
All right, there you have it. Our stardom sit-em for Week 10 in the NFL at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end position. If you like today's video, please like it. We really appreciate it. And drop your comment below. Any start-sit question for Week 10, we got you. Even future advice to help you make that playoff push, we got you. Check out the website. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We would love to have you a part of the fam. Come back for Week 11, and everyone get a W this week. Peace out.